Hello, most welcome to 1954 of the series. We will today continue with John Manoussakis, The Revelation According to Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida. We will continue where we left off. It was last time quite condensed, I'd say, a lot of information. Not a little. We spoke of the conceptual God, which is lacking God, and Derrida / Manoussakis is using the word or the concept logic of language to be compared with the beetle box or the black box in the regular parlance. And that automatically places God outside our language game, or outside our life world. That will lead to a humanitarian reaction. So once we got a God as a concept, as a being, as a thingy, if you like, a thing God, the protective system comes into action. This is the mechanization of religion. It becomes a mechanical defense and fixation mechanism, building dichotomies, trying to keep God as a thing, as an existence, as an estate. This is why we get arguments for God, such things in concepts as well, without there being any real understanding or taking in of God. God also becomes attacked. That's the second device for the immunity. And there is an attack within. Most atheists comes from very close-knit religious circumstances. We mentioned Hedenius, his parents were very religious. It is the church itself today that fuels atheism because of this conceptualization of God. Making God a thing that is or isn't. And the sternness tends to pass over into an over-seriousness. When there is no openness anymore, we get this closeness, shutting down, semi-aggressive almost. A limitation of the freedom that always was there and still is there as a possibility, but diminished. Well, we heard before the game of the dichotomous. One set in order, they will make a mechanistic chain. On page 314, I think it would be. Further down on the subchapter that you had here of the one possibility, the ratio between these two, religion and reason, or faith and knowledge, becomes established. The other, the defense mechanism against the other, atheism or non-God, becomes set in place, and the openness is lost. We become stern. If we go further down to the second paragraph, and 5 lines down, it is Kant's natural religion that first proclaims the death of God, even prior to Nietzsche, since the moral subjects is supposed to act as if God did not exist. God is nothing more than a useless prosthesis to such a religion. So you make your moral choice without God. Here, this mechanistic tendency is already set in place. It's a morality without God, and then you can add God. Manoussakis called this the two cruel twins in similarity and difference, two spectres of religion. We need to do a lot of summaries about this text. We can go to where we left off. That is starting with the second paragraph on page 315, if you may, color. In this sense, the technical is the possibility of faith. Indeed, it's very chance. A chance that entails the greatest risk, even the menace of radical evil. If there is something that will give us a chance to think of God, to offer us a place from which such thinking may become possible, then this cannot be anything else but precisely that risk that is revealed in the dark light of revealability that lies open in the desolate expanses of Kora. Kora, Kora. That is why at the end, instead of opposing them, the religious and the national as is almost done. Derrida suggests that they ought to be thought together as one and the same possibility. Possibility, possibility, possibility. Radical evil as a possibility for religion opens up in the positing of precisely such a Kantian God. That is a conceptual God, universal and therefore impersonal. 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 Echo. For radical evil and a conceptual God share the very same structure, that of radical otherness. Radical otherness. Radical otherness. A God who lacks a face, and consists only in the dictation of the moral imperative is a God who prohibits or demands but cannot promise. It is only in promise, however, that there is a memory as remembrance of the promise given, and hope as anticipation of the fulfillment of the promise, of the promise, of the promise, of the promise. And hope as the anticipation of the fulfillment of the promise, of the promise. Hello. Without memory and hope, without past and future, this God becomes imprisoned in the stillness of the now. The now, logocentrism, the metaphysics of the present. Without memory and hope, there is also no imagination. Imagination. For there can be no image of the immemorial or of the unexpected. Unexpected. The unexpected. Hence the iconoclastic prohibition against images. Against images. For the image mediates the absolute. It seeks to befriend what is alien in otherness. It is precisely at this point that the alliance of the three Abrahamic religions breaks up. Judaism, Islam, seeking to safeguard the absolute otherness of the other, of the other, of the other. forbid the iconic representations of God. Of God. Christianity's shibboleth, the death, the flesh, and the icon of God. Of God. What a relief understanding brings. Let this be considered not as a minute matter of difference in artistic taste. There's a difference indeed. Indeed. And Derrida's acute insight locates it on another plane, namely that of the death of God. Death of God. He says in my short essay, Faith and Religion, Faith and Knowledge, I ask the question of Islam. In relation to other religions. We have the Judeo-Christian couple. As opposed to Islam. But on the other hand, we have the Judeo-Islamic couple as opposed to Christianity. Christianity. Christianity.
Christianity.
Christianity. Welcome, Echo. I missed you. We need that joy for this dense text, but very interesting. The death of God is Christian. Neither Jew nor Muslim would ever say that God is dead. There is then this confrontation between the three Abrahamic traditions. Traditions. The possibility of divine representation and the death of God are not as dissimilar as it first appears. For the latter presupposes the former. To understand how this is so, we need to think of that historic event, which, although it took place in two different moments, in two different geographical coordinates, separated by a few centuries, remains nevertheless the same event. The same event. The same event. The first moment is well known. It takes place in the 1st century AD. Athens. It is the moment when Paul, in Acts 17, stands in front of the wise of Greece, announcing what we know today as Christianity. 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 What exactly happened there has been evaluated by history's textbooks. The heretical faith of a few Jews meets with that cultural system that would later allow the revealed truth to speak the language of the academy, of the academy, of the academy. The second moment, while it is the other side of the same event, also consists of an announcement, but this time not through the voice of the apostle, but through the sermon of the madman that Nietzsche depicts in his gay science. The gay science. The gay science. The gay science. What is that? Indeed. The madman. Have you not heard of that madman who lit a lantern in the bright morning hours, ran to the marketplace and cried incessantly, I seek God. I seek God. As many of those who did not believe in God were standing around just then, he provoked much laughter, much laughter, much laughter. Laughter. Laughter.
Laughter.
Kalle, I think there's on your side some repetitive sound. Don't know what it is. A repetitive laughter. Has he got lost? Asked one. Did he lose his way like a child? Asked another. Or is he hiding? Is he hiding? Is he hiding? Is he afraid of us? Has he gone? on a voyage, emigrated. Thus they yelled and laughed. Very good. The madman jumped into their midst and pierced them with his eyes, not ice, eyes. Where is God? He cried. I will tell you. We have killed him. You and I. All of us are his murderers. God is dead. Oh dear. Oh. In both these moments, the apostle as well as the madman received the same reaction from their audience, a scornful laughter. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, that's scornful, very good. When they heard about the raising of the dead, some laughed at him. Imen echlevazon, writes the author of the Acts. The Acts, the Acts, the Acts. Imen echlevazon, echlevazon. It seems that the kerygma of the death of God and that of the risen God constitutes a common phenomenon, proto-phenomenon. In front of which is the agora. That is the polis, knows of no other reaction but to laugh. Ha ha ha. Of course, This is a laughter indicative of a deep anxiety of the kind that one experiences when one is faced with a radical reversal, or caught by surprise by an unexpected event after which nothing can ever be the same, ever and ever be the same again. Again.
Deep anxiety.
It can never, ever, Kalle, be the same again. No. What is this reversal? In the case of Paul, his message refers to the end of the epoch of idols that were everywhere in the city. Paul's speech aims at the subversion of the idolization of God, and he attempts it not by overthrowing the physical idols themselves. He doesn't turn against the statues and the sanctuaries of the gods, but by criticizing the reasoning that establishes them. If we are indeed God's offspring, we ought not to think of divinity as something like a statue of gold or silver or stone or a product of man's mind and his art. And his art. It is this likeness or Moses of God with stone, silver, or gold that Paul contests here. At the same time, however, another idol comes to light, the one that had always remained imperceptible, and for this reason the most dangerous of all, because unlike the rest of the idols, it was invisible.
Invisible.
Invisible. Invisible. The conceptual idol, the idol produced by the human mind. Enthymisios anthropo. Enthymisios anthropo is the cause of a wholly different idolatry, the one that, especially after Kant's enlightenment, propagates the autonomy of the individual's reason, subjugating nature, thinking, and God under the categories of its critical omnipotence. In the Athenian Areopagus, Areopagus. Areopagus. Paul is not interested in the praten of the Athenians. That is their actions. But in the nomisen, that is their thoughts. We ought not to think of divinity as, then one might ask, how ought we to think of God? That is indeed the question. How ought we to think of God? Indeed. But first, how ought we not to think of God? The answer is offered by the contemporary evangelist of the death of God. Nietzsche knows very well that the distance from God, Gott, to the idol, Götze, is a short one. A short one. I think that was an excellent, what do you say, Kalle, put a stop there. Because there we have Götze, an unusual name. Good.
Short one. Short one.
And we'll go for a summary here. Let's have a look, see what we can find. It was quite a lot. I don't even know if it's going to be enough with one short summary of this, as I said last time. We go to page 315, if you can, Kalle. And we go down to the third paragraph. Now we're going to get an explanation for this radical evil that I mentioned before. What is this radical evil? What could it be? Now we get to know, finally. Radical evil as a possibility for religion opens up in the positing of precisely such a Kantian God. That is, listen now, a conceptual God and universal and therefore impersonal. It's a variety of the God of Xenophane. For radical evil and a conceptual God share the very same structure, that of radical otherness. A God who lacks a face and consists only in the dictation of the moral imperative is a God who prohibits or demands but cannot promise. It's a detone God, I'd say. And listen now, such great connections here. It's just we go a bit further down. Glory to this text. 4 or 5 lines down, not much. Beginning without memory and hope, without past and future. This God becomes imprisoned in the stillness of the now. And there I shouted, logocentrism. It is also the now, as we went through with Francis Y. Lin, mentioned briefly by Hao Tang, where there are no criterions. That criterions, as we know, are always situated in the past or the future, not directly in the now. Without memory and hope, there is also no imagination. This is what we mentioned just previously in 1950. Let's see here, 53. I can recommend that, where we spoke about Schroeder and aspect seeing. To see beyond the painting, not only to see dots of colors, as Barclay suggested, and probably Daniel Dennett and et al. And all these people. No, you see a painting and you see what it depicts, a battle scene, a nice garden, a landscape in Tuscany, and so forth. The inability is grave not to see that. You lose reality, because reality is just this shifting. Seeing just color dots is not more real, it's less real. The same goes for conceptualization of God. There is no longer any unexpected things that we can read a bit further down. Without memory and hope, there is also no imagination. For there can be no image, word by word the same as 17, of the immemorial or of the unexpected. The unexpected is the creative, the non-mechanical, the thing that we didn't know was coming or planned for or mechanistically, deterministically came there. Please, Kalle, we can go to the next page. So now we can also understand Nietzsche a bit better. Why did he have this merchant running around screaming, God is dead, God is dead? The conceptual God is the evil, the radical evil. To go to, let's see here, 1, 2, it's very complicated here. It's a bit like 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. The paragraph beginning with the first moment is well known. Yeah, you found it. Great, thanks. Cheers. The heretical faith of a few Jews meets with that cultural system that would later allow the revealed truth to speak the language of the academy. So you have a similar tendency in Greece, 1st century AD. And we earlier also mentioned Xenophon. For him, God was defaced, timeless, didn't have past and future. He did not have personality. I think he was the step before a conceptual God. Just a step before. We go further down to that penultimate line on the same page, if you may, Kalle. The madman jumped into their midst and pierced them with his eyes. Where is God? And I would put in also an almost homonym. Actually, we saw in a painting a year ago, Kalle, if you remember that. Somebody depicted eyes and eyes as a homonym. But here it suits a purpose. His eyes, the madman, or if he is a madman, his eyes are eyes. icy, cold, dead, conceptualized. And now we need to go back to this text. It's great. Has he not published something more, Manoussakis? I like it. We go to the next page, please, Kalle. In the first paragraph, there is laughter also in the agora, and it's also indicative of a deep anxiety when people go screaming, God is dead. At the agora, maybe they scream, God is in existence. About 8 lines into the second paragraph. If we are indeed God's offspring, we ought not to think of divinity and listener as something like a statue of gold or silver or stone, and listener, or a product of man's mind and his art. And I add there, a stain or ousia. God turned into a being, idolatry within the mind or outside the mind. Later in the same paragraph there, we see the thinking of Paul. In the Athenian Areopagus, Paul is not interested in the praten of the Athenians, but in their nomisen, that is their thoughts. We ought not to think of divinity as an idolatry, as a conceptualization, as, I would say, a black box God. A God that has no criterion in the real world. It's not connected to liturgy or tradition, the past. It is a now God. Just like Xenophon's God is a now God. And the God that cantered, that has no influence in morality. First, you construe your morality, and then comes God. So God is non-connected to morality. Just as in Newton, where both the world and morality is made by what later came to be seen as the Big Bang, not present, of course, at the time of Newton, but after the world is constructed, you add God as a supplement. That's idolatry. That, my friends, is the evil religion. The conceptual God that shuns God and rejects him by definition, by constructing a self-made golden God and idolatry, processes, if I can pronounce this, processes made by one's personal thinking, which you can't even do, I'd say. I'll go a step further than Paul. It's made from contradiction. It's a sort of Götze. Nietzsche knows very well that the distance from God, Gott, to the idol, Götze, is a short one. So that brought maybe a bit more understanding to Nietzsche as well, and why the madman was screaming. One of the most famous sites all over Kalle, please come in, and do remember, I'm sorry, you need to hold the microphone and speak directly into it.
Let's go to 315. 315.
Now I hear you. Very good. Thank you.
This paragraph beginning with in this sense. So here, the last sentence. That is why at the end, instead of opposing them, the religious and the machinal, as is almost always done, Derrida suggests that they ought to be taught together as one and the same possibility. So what does he mean here? What is the machinal? I would say the machinal stands for reason.
Yeah.
Because even computers, in one way, they can reason. Machines reason in a machinal way.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And the religious is the emotions and all the rest.
Yeah, the effective and the experience. Yeah.
Yes, of course, you in one way you need the machinal. That is you need reason, of course. But you need them both. Therefore, we can say that we can understand that why Derrida says they are both one and the same possibility.
Yeah.
When you separate them, the reason from the religious, then you there is something wrong. You cannot separate them either. And yes, it's done. Let's say in computers. Computers, they reason, but there is no emotion in computers. And that's why reason and computers are one and the same, the machine likes.
Yeah, I like that. And maybe you can't even, as we looked at in How Tongue, I think it was, or I forgot now, how the senses is constantly intercepted by the conceptual and changes the senses. They are together, complementary.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Very good.
Let's go to 317. This discussion at Areopagus, Paul's discourse there. As you pointed out, Hans, Paul is against the idea that we think of divinity,
Yeah,
or something like a statue of gold. We can even see the Greek here, verse 29. Verse 29, yes. So you see, you see the Greek there, verse 29. Book of Philomen, we ought not to think that is the divine being, something like gold or silver or stone or a graven thing, as if made of a craft or a human imagination.
Techniques, yes.
Of craft. Technis is here genitive. Technis the singular nominative. So I think the key word is perhaps as in English.
Okay.
As, not to think. In Greek it would be omion, or homoion in classical Greek, omion, like. So it's like as. Manoussakis points out, the main thing is as. Perhaps the.
Yeah.
It could be. So it's like the aspecting of Wittgenstein, I suppose.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. Yeah, not too bad. I like that.
So it's not like gold or something else, but omnion. But what is God like then? Or how should we think? I suppose he's already there. God is already there, so he cannot then postulate it afterwards. Perhaps, I don't know, or what would you say, Hans?
Could you come again, the last phrases there? Sorry, Kalle.
So, what is the answer then? Paul's answer. We should think that we cannot postulate him God afterwards.
No,
because he's already there.
Yeah, exactly. He's already always been there. And to put him as the Kantian idea, to put him as a supplement afterwards, or the Newtonian way, to put him afterwards, glue him on as a concept, because God has never been away from reason. They are one and the same. And thereby starts this divide. And of course, this divide becomes aggressively much more stronger with Newton and Enlightenment. And I'm so happy I also understand Nietzsche now. Sorry to digress a bit, but that made me even more happy. Would that answer your question somewhat?
Yes. You speak of Nietzsche. We spoke long time ago about that Wittgenstein was interested in schizophrenia, I think.
Oh yeah, with the eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, great. Oh wow. Oh wow. He was.
So it's actually this madman, alias Nietzsche. It's Nietzsche himself who is here having the first tendency of schizophrenia.
Indeed, yes.
It would be interesting to actually go through a paper about Wittgenstein's ideas about schizophrenia. Perhaps one time in the future. And we could say that this person is actually sick. He's aptly called madman.
Yes, it's the modern sickness, according to McKilchrist, the objectification of thinking, making everything only to rational and seeing expression and, as we said, God as an experience, make that a supplement or an additive. I think maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but as when I grew up and I had contact with the church, the miracles were seen as metaphors. And I think that's typical of that sort of left hemisphere thinking.
And there was something, the Wi-Fi is a little bit.
Wow, that's quite a lot written there, I see. How interesting.
Scriber. And the schizophrenic mind, approaching schizophrenia through Wittgenstein. I don't know. There are some things on this subject. Nothing very really recent, but still, I think.
Yeah, I read a description of the schizophrenic eyes. I've seen them myself. The schizophrenic is inwardly and outwardly looking for objects. And we today, to point to Ian McKilchrist, we are living in a schizophrenic world. We are not all schizophrenics, of course, schizophrenics. But there is a tendency to objectify internally everything and to make those things as God an internal idolatry. Oh, very interesting. What do you say? Maybe we should.
Oh, let's end there, Hans.
Very interesting. I love this article by Manoussakis. Thank you very much. And finally I start understanding Nietzsche by coincidence a bit more. And we also understand, and I at least, to speak for myself, I understand the modern day and age a bit more. But thank you very much for that. Can you find anything more about Manoussakis and Derrida? It would be fantastic. Thank you everyone for listening in. Have a pleasant day, morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Bye-bye for now.